Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Star Wars Minute. It's your daily podcast in which we analyze, we scrutinize, and we celebrate The Last Jedi 1 minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
And I'm Jackie Kashian. I'm their guest this week, and I'm a comic. And you could go to JackieKashian.com and find out how to watch me do stand-up comedy in a safe, quarantine, Zoomish kind of way by joining my email list, which is easier to get off than it is to get on. Good luck.
Well, thanks for coming back, Jackie.
Thanks for having me.
We are on minute 13 of the movie. Minute 13 starts off with the burning Dreadnought falling into Dakar's atmosphere. And it ends a minute later with a startled Finn awakening in his medical bubble. Medical
Burning
bubble.
Dreadnought was a... I think it's is it more of a metal band or is it a reggae band? Could go either way there.
Oh,
I'm gonna go metal.
Dreadnought. I like that.
When in doubt, go metal.
How about reggae covers of metal songs?
Oh, there you go. They're reggae metal. Is that a fusion that's happened yet? Reggae metal?
I have to say, the guy who plays Hux, and I'm sure you know his name, he is literally the funniest for me. He is my favorite of all the bad guys, and he's, you just picture him sort of falling into this job and then all of a sudden being super powerful and smug about it, and just a complete and utter tool bag, but just sort of like not, he's like, no, whatever you want done is going to be done. And then he slid across the ground by the lizard face. And I'm on board. So. Yeah,
it's a... we were saying earlier that I at least didn't fully appreciate him in The Force Awakens because I was like, he's a little over the top. And then I was like, oh, no, wait. This movie, it really hammers it in that he's like, oh, he's going for over the top and he's way over the top. And that's what makes him great. So
yeah,
it took me a minute, but I also love Hux. And that's Domhnall Gleeson, who is the son of Brendan Gleeson. And Domhnall is in a lot of other things.
Did you say Harry Potter? Was his
in the Harry
role as one of the
Potters.
Weasleys? It's probably one of the most
he was a
famous.
Weasley. He was a...
Oh, was he? Is he one of the twins, or was he one of the older ones?
I think he's the... I'm
either
trying to
Charlie
remember
or...
which one. He's not... Is he the one that works with dragons?
Okay, that's
Seems
Charlie.
they should have gotten real twins to play the twins. Seems like that would have been easier.
Oh, did they not get twins to play the twins? Maybe, hopefully they got brothers at least.
Let's see.
You looking it up?
Yeah, I don't know why. Oh, he's Bill.
Oh, he's
Bill
Bill.
Weasley, yeah.
Oh, he's the banker. All right.
Oh, there you go.
And a ponytail.
He was in he's always like, after the fact, I realized that I've seen him in a lot. This is after, I always like not having any previous associations with my Star Wars actors when I can. I mean, Woody Harrelson is a weird exception and stuff like that, where I'm like, all right, I can accept you as this. But I had no preconceived Hux notions. But then afterwards, and I've watched a bunch of stuff and be like, oh wait, that was him.
That's that guy.
Because he was in a Black Mirror episode that was really good, and he was in a handful. He was in the Harry Potters. He was in Dread. He was in
That
Ex
National
Machina, which I
movie.
still haven't seen. Yeah.
But he was just, I loved the line where he's just like, oh, good. I'm so glad the Emperor wants to talk to me after everyone escapes.
It's a great, it's a good moment. I love Hux's reaction when he sees it's again evoking The Empire Strikes Back, where it's almost like when Piet watches the Millennium Falcon jump to light speed, and then you cut back to Piet all like gulp. And it's a similar kind of reaction shot here to Hux. And I love the line where he says like, "Oh, excellent! Like, can't wait to talk to him."
Perfect. I would have called him. I don't know if you guys know this. I was just about to say, get the Emperor on the line for me. And
he says he's going to take it in his chambers. Do they? But then Snoke just kind of appears in the middle of the thing. Is that They just have the capability of projecting a giant head of anybody anywhere they want to, or is that
the
Snoke
Emperor
doing
does.
that?
That's Snoke, dude. That's Snoke. Snoke.
him.
I'm sure he would have loved to have been raked over the coals in private,
Right.
in his quarters. Nope. But Snoke is the kind of guy who's just like, no, we're going to do this publicly. You're going to be shamed, and then not killed,
Right.
because he did have an answer. You know,
Yeah.
that he had a tracker on the ship.
I feel like the projector is probably normally used for like maps and like ship battle
PowerPoint
formations so
Where they all stand
and I
around
think
and
he
they say like, okay, well this is the base and we're gonna go from here to here. That whole that scene
That's it.
is in every Star Wars, right? That's what that's usually used
exactly.
for. And
So
then Snoke took it over. He commandeered it for you making a giant head.
He talks to Smithers and says, give me the bridge, and then they cut to. And I like the fact that it was this big giant head as opposed to it was a surprise because I didn't expect him to humiliate. It undermined my expectations. Let's put it that way. I did not expect to see Hux humiliated like that, literally mopping the floor with him using the Force. So good job, Snoke.
Yep. That was compelling. I thought that was a good scene.
Yeah.
And then Poe lands. I don't know why he's like, it's just all reactive. That him landing in that giant ship and.
Well, I guess this is kind of remember we were talking about that Death Star kind of like tension, boom.
Yeah.
Like, and this is a little bit of like, okay, tension, and things fall apart, and there's a little bit of like little bits of, and so we get the Hux scene is kind of that, but the Poe kind of flying in, he's like like just out of that danger. Everything blew up, and he's just kind of flew into the hangar too fast and has to like reverse, all herky jerky.
I think Hux deserves to get yelled at because we see the Star Destroyer. Yes, by us, and once the Dreadnought is gone, you see there's like 6 Star Destroyers just hanging out there. I was like, well, what have you guys been doing this whole? What like?
Right.
So Hux is desperately he is in need of a
he did drop the ball.
Situation.
Yeah, he dropped the ball on this for sure. But it's that smugness of the Empire that they always have. They're just like, well, we have the biggest gun. Of course, nobody's going to try to sneak in with just 2 guys or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's how the Resistance always gets them.
Yeah, hubris.
Yeah,
Hux hubris.
Do we know who the communication? The communication woman who tells Hux, because her accent was interesting too.
I think we saw her last week and I wrote it down, but now I'm not.
She's it's interesting. All of the Empire, they all have various UK accents, and all of the Resistance, it's all Americans, and it's so interesting to me that.
Mostly. There's a couple of exceptions, but yeah.
Are there? Yeah. It's
Ray is probably
that's right.
Only good British person.
right. She's
yeah.
So, but it's a weird sort of casting choice. It feels like, like they wanted those crisp tones to denote evil, and they wanted sloppy Americans to, hey, you bunch of mutts, you can't keep us down, and so.
Here's another one. I found the actress's name again, but her character is simply Armitage Hux's First Order Monitor. I think we talked about that.
All right.
The actress is Kate Dickie, who was in a handful of things. She was in Game of Thrones and Prometheus.
Okay, so she's working too.
Yeah,
that's great, and she got a line, so it's always good to know.
This is a second one, I think, because we saw her in I wrote her down for minute 4, so she's. I think she consistently pops up as basically Hux's. Not to belittle her, but Hux's just secretary, just always being like, "Oh, hey, the so and so is on the line." Yeah.
Which is, that gig is also a gig, so I'm psyched about it.
Although to. An Imperial officer, First Order officer on the bridge of a capital ship, just like, oh yeah, it's Hux's secretary. I'm sure she wouldn't appreciate that, but but they do. So Hux's response, Hux's kind of answer for this, he's like, it's okay. We have them tied on the end of a string, and that is. I mean, presumably everybody was like, what do you mean by that afterwards?
Right,
And
right.
There's an explanation within the First Order, but we just hear him say, that's okay, we've got them tied on the end of a string. And I think, we did this for Rogue One last season, but I think were The Last Jedi a musical, this would be a musical number that we've got them tied on the end of a string that would keep coming up because it's the consistent theme of this kind of being chased by them. So we could have, several, we've got them tied on the end of a string reprise over and over again. It's a common theme anytime the First Order shows up to kind of further chase the
right. And it calls back to A New Hope, of course, because they put the tracker on the Millennium Falcon.
Right, exactly.
And, I guess it's just too hard to do a sweep to get those trackers off. It should be one of the things of, turn on all the different things to make the jet fly. And also,
right.
Hey, did anyone put a tracker on?
Sweep for bugs.
Sweep for bugs, please.
Right.
Yeah. Like you're staying in a Motel 6. Sweep for bugs, first thing.
Yes, first thing. Try not to stay in a Motel 6. First thing. Second thing. Sweep for bugs.
So with the musical idea, I like the idea if we can then reuse that, like later on when when Rose is like, Finn, why are you so obsessed with finding Rey? And then he could say like, oh, she has me on the end of a string, like that, like kind of a wrinkle, because he's a former First Order person, so his theme should have First Order echoes in it.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Interesting.
Could sit down for a while, think about it.
Workshop it.
Third act reprise,
But I feel, we're 13 minutes in. I feel like we're a little late to have brought it. We should have probably brought up the musical idea earlier for this season. I forgot about it. So.
Well, this is our first.
I just dropped something. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay.
It was
your
a
jaw.
There'll be
your jaw dropped because
my
of
jaw
it was the mic.
Analogy.
Like, bam.
Bam! I'm out of here. Storming out.
This is the first appearance of Finn. We see in that we mentioned him, and now he's here in his little space bubble.
Right. He will be in this movie. We now know that Finn will be in this movie and this is where. Well, it's actually in the next minute, but it's fine. I mean, he's in this weird bubble. We don't know what he's in. Yeah. Why is he in plastic? But, I mean, we're relieved because he lived. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, last time we saw Finn, he had been on the receiving end of Kylo Ren's beating with the lightsaber, and so that was, we didn't see him
up in the air,
waving goodbye to everyone with C-3PO and everything. So,
right, we heard them say he'll be all right or something like that, like he's going to live, or something like that as they wheeled him off. Oh, and so then this does really kind of hammer home the idea that this is literally happening right after The Force Awakens, which I feel like the first time through, as we said when we first saw Dakar, we saw the last week we found them on the Rebel, the Resistance base on the planet, and I in my head I just hadn't put together. I'm used to the in between Star Wars movies a bunch of stuff happens and then we pick it back up, And so when they're evacuating this base, I just assumed, then they went to a different base, and then the First Order found them, and they had to evacuate. But it's literally the base that we last saw them at the end of the previous movie. Yeah. And then this kind of further hammers that home. And it's like, and he's still unconscious from the end of the last movie.
Right, and it must have been a while because at the end of the last movie, isn't that when Rey finds Luke?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not months or weeks, right?
Yeah.
Flying across the universe to find a weird island, little Animal Crossing, thing that he's running.
Once you have a map, I think
it does help.
It's got Luke Skywalker's code, his gamer code.
SW, sure.
Yeah. I remember thinking when I saw Force Awakens and they did not show the fate of Finn, I remember thinking that he was going to come back in this movie and be like a cyborg or something. Like the fact that they didn't show him and that he has sustained some kind of lightsaber injury, it seemed to me like he easily could have had like a robotic spine or something like, maybe not full Darth Maul spider legs, but something like that I thought they were going to. But my expectations were totally undermined. He's fine.
He's fine.
We can assume. I don't know. He wakes up kind of startled. We don't know what's going to happen.
Right, and we don't even know. Like he's in that med pod, but we don't know it's a med pod until they pull out, which is, I believe, the next minute.
It is in the next minute.
It is.
Right.
Anything else?
Well,
I was all Hux.
Yeah. No, as
all
well
Hux
you should
all
be.
the time.
This is a good, and it's kind of a follow-up of the kind of different tone that this movie takes, which we've already brought up once. That kind of, the whole beginning scene has a lot of, especially the dialogue between Hux and Poe, has a lot of kind of more comedic elements that's a little more direct than some of the other. There were some attempts at humor in the prequels that worked on different levels.
In the next minute, we could definitely speak about attempting humor, and how complicated it can be. And it's a learned skill, comedy, and some of it's.
I'm glad we have a professional here to guide us through.
Yes, that'll be to be snarky about it, because the thing is, and I don't want to be snarky about it because I want to like all of them. I want to like them. I go in going, how bad can it be? I say to myself, and then I try to watch Phantom Menace again, and it helps with Phantom Menace if you're 11, but I've never been 11 when I tried to watch Phantom Menace, so their trouble remains. But
one day we'll have that technology.
Exactly. Or I will get so old, I will be like, no, I get it. And
Jack, as a professional humoridian, which is the funniest Star Wars movie?
Has to be Empire. I think. And,
right, you just jumped right to it.
Yeah, when I think about it, I think about the interactions between, though A New Hope, the second half of The New Hope, all Leia Han interactions are good, and in Empire, I believe that's the one where they're inside the giant snake, right? The big worm thing,
space slug,
the big space slug, and so those are your, it's Alec Guinness, and then Han and Leia scenes. Luke is not. He's pretty funny actually. He's funnier in these movies than he was in A New Hope. He's a lot more. He's got the good sarcasm now, I think.
Well, he kind of had to carry the serious baton especially in Return of the Jedi and Empire. It's like, he's the one with the kind of the hero's arc, so he can't be the straight man, the goofball. Although on the Muppet Show, very funny. So
what about the droids?
I think for me, they
do a lot of that comedic heavy lifting in the original trilogy and in the prequels, I guess.
Right. I would say that the droid in Mandalorian, who was a murderer and then becomes a nanny, is some of the funniest stuff for me as well. Mandalorian has a lot more better, well done comedy. Well done, sort of lighter moments. And I wouldn't say comedy. I would say lighter moments. Right. And whenever George Lucas or somebody tries to go for comedy, they usually go for like a funny alien with a long elephant nose, or like they're simple.
That is pretty funny, though. You got to admit, that's pretty funny.
Huh? Look at this. Look what's happening here. And when he has hands, Jackie. Yeah. Anyway, so no, I'm sympathetic. I'm actually not sympathetic, but I am supportive, because I'm so supportive that but I'm not sympathetic, and I'm vaguely irritated until I remind myself to be supportive.
I want to give an honorable mention from my point of view, just to everybody, don't sleep on C-3PO's humor in The Rise of Skywalker. He's very funny in that. And he's got perfect timing. Yeah. He's great too. Yes. But again, that's not that doesn't make the whole movie funny.
R2D2, a well-placed beep. I don't know. Have you guys read Darth? Are you reading Darths and Droids?
No. What is that?
It's essentially this podcast in webcomic, except for they've been going
My lawyers are intrigued.
Exactly. What it is it's a webcomic where they take all of the movies and they turn it into a D&D campaign.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
And
I think
so
I have seen that. It's like photo funnies kind of a thing?
Yes. They take screenshots, and the R2-D2 character is played, I think, by his little sister wants to play in New Hope. And, or... I forget, whatever it is, the R2-D2 unit is min-maxed. The character is min-maxed to the extreme. So he can't speak. He has no arms. It's and in the arc of it, Han Solo becomes Chewbacca's sidekick. Like the way they change the plot almost makes sense. Like it makes more sense to some extent, but it's very funny and it's very sweet, and it's Darths and Droids. It's a webcomic. It's been going on as long as this podcast, I think. So I think that they are currently in either The Last Jedi or Rogue One. I forget which one they're redoing right now. So anyway,
it makes more sense that Han Solo would be Chewie's sidekick because Chewie's 200 years old and Han's just this.
Yeah, just a guy. Yeah, he's just a yeah.
Oh, look at that! They're Darths and Droids. It looks like the most recent one is they're just about to see some Rathtars, so they're about a movie behind.
Oh, there you go.
Tears.
Yeah.
Yes, Tears. Anyway, but I thought Finn in the Bubble is
Finn in the Bubble.
Finn in the Bubble. He's in the bubble. He's surprised to wake up, but I was so relieved to see him alive, quite honestly. I was like, oh, good, he's going to be in this movie.
Yeah.
And I always want them to do more with him, but...
that's... Well, I think it's interesting that both of these this movie and the last movie ended with Finn in some kind of coma, not with the gang, which is weird. Like, it's like they thought John Boyega wasn't going to come back like he was on a movie by movie contract where they had to come up with some plausible reason why he wasn't coming back in the next movie already.
Well, I'm trying to remember what happens at the end of this one.
He's trying to commit suicide by bombing and Rose is like, no, we do this because we love each other and so on. They kiss and then it's never brought up again.
Maybe they're trying to get him. They were like trying to reverse Harrison Ford him. They're like, you're going to be, in a coma there. So if you want to go take any other projects, just let us know because we can. It's safe. You're in a thing there. Like, I think they
wanted to get rid of him.
Well, I think I brought this up. I know I brought it up last season. I think I brought it up this season already once. But I think they got painted into a corner when they decided not to kill Poe in the first movie, and then they basically had an extra character that they didn't know what to do with, and they ended up giving a lot of the more interesting stuff to Poe and leaving Finn kind of dangling with subplots, which is not entirely fair, and it was seemed to be a on the fly, as it were, decision during the Force Awakens, and so then I think it basically led to a little bit of extra, of not knowing what to do, and it's
It's always so weird. Like, you wonder what the politics of that. Like, is the actor who plays Poe just more fun to hang out with, or is there?
Better.
I mean, they both seem incredibly charming. So
they seem incredibly charming, the two of them. Yeah. But quite honestly, Finn seems more charming to me. But that's just personal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also weird because Finn has a built-in story arc. He's an
he
escaped slave who can go back and like.
He's He's an escaped stormtrooper.
Poe has no backstory to him that's at all interesting.
Right, he's just cocky. But if you gave Finn that cockiness, because he has an actual arc, right? There's going to be an actual arc there where he finds his courage and he finds his, his place in the resistance.
He finds his heart.
Threw it all away.
He finds his brains.
And then all of a sudden he's in Kansas.
Yeah.
Weird.
Well, anything else to say about minute number 13 before we wrap this up?
Not it.
No, I think we can. We'll check and see what happens with Finn when he wakes up. Hopefully, next episode.
Right. Okie doke, we will do that. And while you're waiting for us to come back, why don't you go to moviesbyminutes.com? That's where you'll find all the 100+ other podcasts that have also engaged in this insane hobby of ours of analyzing movies minutes by minutes. So everything from Goodfellas to That Darn Cat to the whole Lord of the Rings. Have they done all the Lord of the Rings movies yet?
I don't think it was That Darn Cat. I think it was a talking cat. But maybe there's That Darn cat. I don't know.
Probably.
If you like Rian Johnson movies, somebody just started doing Knives Out minute. So
right,
there you go.
So go to moviesbyminutes.com and check it out and let us know if you find any cool shows. But you'll never find a show as cool as tomorrow's show, Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.